It's not like you can go out and purchase it. Hey, let's buy a new culture. We see here's one on sale. One? Yeah, there's one on sale. It's got a Black Friday tag on it. Let's get that one.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 433 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle from Carden. What's going on, Donna?
Hanging in there, just clinging with the claws, right? Hanging in there.
Well, at least you're not hanging by your tail anymore.
Yeah, I've been able to get a little bit of leverage, but not a lot.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy.
Yeah. So if my personal life settles down and stabilizes in a positive way, I'm not going to know what to do with myself.
There's plenty for you to do.
Yeah, there is. That's what the team's telling me.
Yeah, there's plenty. So today we're going to be talking about the CISO Security Maturity Report 2023. And this is going to be interesting because this report is actually not based in the U.S., not based in healthcare, and it's talking to CISOs. So there's some interesting things we can pull from this.
David, what's a CISO?
It is a Chief Information Security Officer. Officer. Yep.
So those are the one that's in charge of making sure everything's secure.
Mm-hmm.
All the info is secure.
Or as one CISO told me, I don't know how to do it. I just know that it needs to get done, and I'm supposed to make sure it gets done.
That's right. That's right. They're the ones that have to take the information, make the decisions, and make sure it gets done.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of like Carly is, I'm sure they do a lot of translation between, those below and above.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know, but it's interesting. You and I went through the report together and pulled out some things, and it was like, it's okay. And,
interesting.
Yeah, and it's like always, we don't go through the whole report with you on the show, so we'll go over the points we find interesting and leave the rest of it to your bathroom reading.
When you're in the library.
That's right. All right. So before we jump into that, I do want to say thanks to those folks who help and share out the show, and they follow us, give us reviews, and even sometimes send us some goodies in the mail.
I know, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks to our donors. Love you guys. Love you lots and mean it. Any shout outs for you today? Are you ready to go?
I think I'm ready to go because I am quickly losing my ability to focus, David. So we better, good luck. We don't know where this one will go.
Well, I did notice that I looked at the show notes and you changed your briefs. So
I did.
For this,
I have on a different set of briefs.
So for this week, we're going to be talking about cyber briefs.
Yeah, it's two quickies that our briefs will be about. Is the SEC had a press release that they are charging or have charged some folks over at SolarWinds with fraud.
With a G?
And then there's David, people. There's David. But the folks that they have gone after is SolarWinds, the organization, and the Chief Information Security Officer with fraud and internal control failures.
Ouch.
That is, their CISO is being charged personally, independent of the company.
Yeah, but, to be clear, he's not charged with the fact that there was a cyber incident or charged with the fact that you were lying and covering up and not telling people what you should be telling people.
Exactly. So this is what they say is we allege that for years, SolarWinds and Brown, who is the CISO, ignored repeated red flags about SolarWinds cyber risk, which were well known throughout the company and led one of Brown's subordinates to conclude, we're so far from being a security-minded company, which was what apparently one of the SEC folks got in an interview. Rather than address the vulnerabilities, SolarWinds and Brown engaged in a campaign to paint a false picture of the company's cyber controls environment, thereby depriving investors of accurate material information. Today's enforcement action not only charges SolarWinds and Brown for misleading the investing public and failing to protect the company's, quote, crown jewel assets, but also underscores our message to issuers. Implement strong controls calibrated to your risk environment and level with investors about known concerns. Ouch.
Yeah. So again, another way for us to point to things and say, it's not just about HIPAA, folks.
Mm-hmm. Here is apparently a 2018 presentation prepared by an engineer and shared internally with everybody involved. Said that SolarWinds remote access setup was, quote, not very secure, and someone exploiting the vulnerability could basically do whatever without us detecting it until it's too late, which would lead to major reputation and financial losses. So there was another one in 2019 that the current state of security leaves us in a very vulnerable state for our critical assets. So this speaks to, I don't know about you, but more than once, I have people saying, yeah, we need to get to that. We know we're not good at it.
Yeah. Not going to be very good for that to be your defense. Let's just say it that way.
Yeah. I need to get to that. I meant to do that.
It's all about intention.
That's the thing I hate. It's like, I meant to do that. Okay. But then why didn't you?
Yeah, but you didn't.
You didn't make it a priority, clearly. So meant to do it meant you put it on your list, but you never made it rise to a priority to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. So what percentage did you mean to do it? Because if you said, let's just say you said, well, I 50% meant to do it, which means you 50% meant you weren't going to do it.
Yeah. I've tried, it just drives me nuts. So I meant to do it, not very helpful, and won't be very helpful in this case. Yep. I meant to pay attention to those warnings. We were going to get to it.
Mm-hmm. I meant to slow down whenever I entered that 35-mile-an-hour zone. Sorry, officer. I meant to stop drinking long before I drove.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So yeah, this would be interesting. And I remember when we talked about this when it first came out, and I was like, man, I am so glad that I don't use SolarWinds or any of their products. In fact, I've stayed away from their products since, because that's just, oh gosh, I can't do it.
Well, after we talked about what happened with Kaseya on our previous episode and what they went through, well, as long as there's not going to be repeated discussions of the fact that it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. They knew it, and they signed off on things saying that it was okay.
Yep.
And again, that is the core issue most of the time when you have these legal cases that get anywhere over cyber breaches. And then the other little nugget.
Yeah, we talked about this one a little bit.
And we talked about a couple of different times. The American Hospital Association has repeatedly raised the issue to OCR, to Congress, to many people, that the new guidance about online tracking technologies being PHI, unless you can show blah, 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 they have finally actually filed a suit They are suing to make that go away. So we'll see where that goes. And this is why I keep telling people, you better be sure that you're just shutting it down or you're documenting what your stuff's doing. You're better off documenting and saying we thought it was okay than you are ignoring it and having no idea what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be watching that one for sure.
Yep.
But that takes years.
Yeah, it does. All right. So let's dive into this security maturity report, because I know you like saying that.
You're the one that is hitting it like, bam, punctuating security maturity.
Security.
Well,
Respect.
knock me down and steal my teeth. We got security maturity.
So yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, though. Benchmarking the maturity of your business's cybersecurity posture, and what are the benefits of those?
Yeah, I really like that it was buried in the report, but they explain the value of it, which is help identify potentially damaging risk, which we are always wanting to do. The highest priorities for investment are areas for divestment. Let's get out of that business and into this other one. And then to drive process change to better protect your organization. Yeah,
which happens a lot, or should happen a lot. Let me say that.
Should.
Yeah, yes. Should. But here's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize there's a difference between security and then a mature security posture.
Yes.
So it's the difference between, yes, we pay for cybersecurity. Great. I'm glad you pay for cybersecurity. How mature is it? And they're like, huh?
I know. Yeah, I was in a conversation and, sales folks, you know how that goes. Said, the way we're doing it, which I love what they were talking about. They did have a great security plan in place for this scenario we were discussing. And then they said the thing I never want to hear.
It's 100% secure.
100% secure. Nope, stop.
Oh, I knew he was going to say that.
100% secure. Stop right now. Stop. We're not going any further until we clarify that is impossible. Yes. So.
Yeah, that to me, that's one of those times when I just run. Like when your sales guy says it's 100% secure, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. Immediately, though, as soon as my hand shot up, it was like, sorry, nothing's 100% secure. And I'm like, but that's what you usually say.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm out. I mean, I go through so much pains to tell people nothing's 100%. Like I say that probably every single day. Nothing's 100%. Don't misunderstand me when I'm telling you about this security stuff. And the biggest reason I say that is because part of what I want people to understand is if it fails, whether the security fails or whether the process fails, doesn't matter. If it fails, am I able to put you in a defensible position? That's why you need to understand that it's not about whether security is 100% or not. It's about how is it protecting you when either the security fails or the person fails or the process fails.
Yeah, I love the people that still say, well, nobody's going to get in, so we don't have to worry about securing internal.
Yeah. Well, when you and I were talking before we started recording, I made a comment about how frustrating it is that people still say things like, do we really need all this security?
Yeah.
And, what I equated it to is like, okay, you're in the Middle East and you're in a firefight and like bullets whizzing by every half second. And the guy looks at you and goes, is all this body armor really necessary? Like, seriously? Did you just ask that?
Those folks laying in a desert somewhere, very thankful for the body armor, and you don't know you're in the desert next to them.
Yeah. Or maybe what it is, maybe it's the fact that sometimes you have people that are in a foxhole and nothing's happening. And they're like, is this all really necessary for me to wear? Well, yeah, because you don't know when that barrage of gunfire is coming. So you've got to be ready for it.
Pop your head up out of that hole without anything on.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we've all seen the war movies, which I'm sure in a lot of cases is probably not even as bad as what the reality of that is.
Well, a lot of folks talk about like the opening to Saving Private Ryan and how realistic it was, and you still can't even comprehend it.
No.
So it's the thing of, if you were in that position, how you would feel. But when it comes to this cyber war we're in, people still don't understand you are in this war.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been saying that for how many years now, David?
Quite a lot. 8.
Grandma's getting tired. We're at 8.5, yeah. So let's hit the key takeaways that we got out of this. Because it was, when you talk about security maturity, you're also talking about security culture. Because a mature organization, it's built into the culture.
Mm-hmm.
That you worry about it with everything. And people ask me, what does that mean? I was like, whenever you have a meeting and you decide you're going to do something, somebody needs to say, is there a privacy or security thing involved in this project? Will it impact us? Do we need to change our policies? Blah, blah, blah. That needs to be at the table for every discussion to decide to do it or leave it out. It's not needed. Not leave it out because we don't want to do it. Let me be clear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we don't want to do that. So, yeah, that doesn't count. That's kind of like documenting it and then continuing on. So, but in this survey of these CISOs, and, a big chunk of them are from Europe, but there's like a third of them, I wanted to say, that were from the US, and a big chunk is in financial, but that's where the rules are. And everybody's like, well, if you're in healthcare, you're as good as this as financial. No, they're not. Because it's a whole different world. So many people come out of the financial world into healthcare thinking it's the same and are stunned at how different it really is. They do not have the competing priorities of life-saving equipment and security equipment. They do not have the competing priority of our reimbursement for this same thing is going down while our costs for doing it are going up. They don't have any of that. Healthcare lives in that world. So if you say they're of course they're going to do it, and then they're having these problems, then you need to say, well, I'm like them. I'm having the same problems. But they say that despite human resource limitations, their security culture is making good progress. It is improving, but still a work in progress.
Yep.
So the average rating for overall security posture, though, dropped. And we'll get to that in a second. Where they think they are security posture-wise is not a 5-star rating.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing, just to kind of pull out of that statement there, is that they said it's despite human resource limitations, not us buying more security tools.
Right. You're absolutely right. That's a big piece of the pie right there, is this understanding that, we'll just throw money at it, or a belief, not an understanding. We'll throw money at it and it'll all be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For every, and this is kind of another takeaway I talk to my clients about, is for every piece of technology that we put in place for security or other things, somebody's got to manage it and monitor it and all this other stuff. So you can't have one without the other.
Well, that's a very good point, because we always talk about, if you got all the stuff monitoring and doing alerts and nobody's paying attention, then you've wasted your money. Mm-hmm. So that is a key point. That brings us to the second key point that they unanimously stated. That means a lot of people said it. as their number one thing, that leadership endorsement is the most impactful factor in improving security culture and alignment between top management and security teams. It is unanimous that it is the most impactful and that it has seemed to improve over the previous year.
And I would say that the organizations that I've been introduced to in some form or factor, the ones that the leadership are not on board or they think they're exempt from cybersecurity, those are the ones that absolutely have the worst posture when it comes to security. Absolutely, just worst. It's
you're going to have people trying to secure it and being frustrated, and then people that don't care about it at all. If your leader only moderately cares about it, you're in trouble. You know?
I mean, I've heard people tell me, Dr. So-and-so doesn't do it, so why are we doing it at all?
What is that? Don't be something, that commercial. Don't be Dave. Don't be. I'll figure it out. But the whole point is, we've said this many times, that if you don't have leadership engagement, it's not going to be a successful program. If you're not going to have leadership engagement, you need to prepare for the worst. Just do what you can with what you're given and have everything documented, so when it all falls apart, you have a plan for, these are the things we're going to need to do. So then, the other thing that we saw is they feel it is being negatively impacted by too many priorities and a lack of resources. It's the personnel concerns that outweigh purely financial constraints. Because without the right people, it's a barrier to meeting their objectives because they just don't have the people to fix it. Right. And so over 95% of organizations are trying to retrain talent and recruit new staff with a particular focus, hiring for diversity to strengthen teams and bring different perspectives into the business.
It is interesting, though, they didn't bring up anything about outsourcing or co-manage things, where they're having another company help with that. I didn't see anything about that. Everything seems to be more internal in this report.
Well, yeah, but we also looked at the size of the organizations, and they're kind of spread out, as 30% on the smaller side, 30% in the middle, and 30% in the top end. So you would think that we would see more about that, but there is a chart where it talks about what they're worried about, and managed services is on that list.
Okay.
So the top 3 factors impacting the security culture, the security team, is overstretched and under-resourced.
Amen. Preach it.
Yeah. I can't do more because I already can't do what I'm supposed to be doing. Having too many competing priorities because everything's the number one priority.
Amen. Preach it.
And you and I both know, when you're in a small business, and our micro businesses, everything is a competing priority. We get it. But none of the other priorities are going to matter the minute your security fails. Everything will get set aside.
Yes, it will.
Everything. And then lack of resources for security awareness, behavior, and culture.
I don't know if I agree with that.
What? If we don't have resources to encourage the culture?
I think there's a bunch of resources for security awareness and behavior and culture. They're just not, either they're not identifying them and using them. I don't know, man.
Well,
we talked about this before.
We participate in building these things.
Yeah.
And so there are plenty of freely available for security awareness, but behavior and culture, you've got to do that internally.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say on the cultural side, how do you change the culture in your organization? That's not I don't know, man. Is it a resource thing? I think it's just a matter of really just looking at a change in behavior, particularly from the top down, and just enforcing those things. It's not like you can go out and purchase it. Hey, let's buy a new culture. We see here's one on sale. One? Yeah, there's one on sale. It's got a Black Friday tag on it. Let's get that one.
Yeah, but at the same time, managing behavior is directly related to setting policy and enforcing it, or controlling it through technology. I mean, what other things do you have?
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't have the technology to do it, that's one thing, but there's only so much that technology can do. So it's setting policy and enforcing it, which has to come from the top down.
Yeah. I can see if you said that, there's a lack of resources for managing the security awareness. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, let's get moving.
Here you go.
I just know, I guess you and I, we put out so many resources. I mean, this podcast is one of them. We put out so many free resources and paid resources that when somebody's like, there's no resource, I'm like, come on. There's tons of resources.
At all different price levels.
Yeah, really. So anyway, all right, let's see. Next question. This was interesting. Which of the following have been the most effective at fostering the better security culture over the past 12 months? And so we said leadership endorsement is number one.
60% of the people polled said that's number one.
For me, I'm always like interested in what's the top three.
Yeah.
The next one down, 41%. Proactive, report it, no blame policy. So if you see something, say something, and it ain't my fault.
Yeah, you don't have to go through that no blame thing, because that's why a lot of people don't tell you things, because they think they did something wrong.
Yeah. Now, the third one comes in at 38%. I think they misspelled this.
Yeah, they did. It has to be. Just a typo.
They've got it down as stimulated phishing.
Pretty sure it's simulated.
I think you're right. It's probably simulated, but I am very interested in stimulated phishing. If that's a thing, I'm interested to know more.
Just moving along, stimulated phishing. Does that mean there's an electrical current in the tank? I mean, I was like, I don't know.
Like you click and get shocked. That's pretty stimulating.
And there's several others along the way. Cartoons, giveaways, and gimmicks. Only 4% thought that helped.
Yeah, well, we often call that gamification. Yeah. Well, actually, gamification is even listed here. Competitions between teams and geographies, in parentheses, gamification, 6%. Yeah.
Right.
So, which is kind of shocking, because we always hear about, let's make it fun and gamify. I mean, we talk about it, even in the boot camp. Make it fun, gamify it, do all this stuff to it. They're saying it doesn't do a whole lot.
But look at what's way up there, though, security champions. And that's something we talk about.
Yeah.
Is to bring in everybody and have people that are champions in different areas of the company. Mm-hmm. And I think that program is the winning program, and something that we're working on to how can we help members of Cardin Club facilitate something like that. It's like my team doesn't even want me to talk about it right now because I have to get other things done first. Mm-hmm. However, I always have to get other things done. And that's something we're really working on, of helping you build that and have, how can we foster that? Because we do see it is quite helpful. Yeah. So if you can get the people involved and you're doing your stimulated phishing.
I'm going to figure that one out. Some things we do talk about often, and especially in the boot camp that are on this list, we talk about tailoring your training and communications for the audience. We talk about that. That was number 4, 37%. Mm-hmm. We talk about doing tabletop exercises. That was in the top few. Mm-hmm. We talk about bite-sized training. That's in the list. So most of the things that we teach and talk about are in this list.
Well, and I also like that measuring the security culture is mentioned, because if you're not looking, you're never going to improve.
Mm-hmm.
And then the awareness training aimed at colleagues' families. We've heard a lot about how that, and 18% are all about that, where 24% is what the security champions, where they think it helps. So we've got a lot of things there that we could use to explain why you want to do these things, because it will improve your security simply by making sure this is part of your culture.
Right. And to note about the leadership endorsement piece that we've mentioned 3 or 4 times already, the difference between last year's report and this year's report, last year was 50%, this year 60%. So even more CISOs are saying leadership endorsement is a major factor. So if you are in leadership and you're listening, hello.
And if you want your leadership to learn about this, see if you can get them to listen.
Yeah.
Or give them the report to read. We give you links to the report. You can go download it yourself. But it is by far a huge element in any, and it doesn't matter. We know this, and we've preached this for a long time. And this is just more data proving that needs to be a focus. And until it is, you're not going to be anywhere. So we got to figure that one out.
So we know what good things to do. Now let's look at the bad things.
What are the things that are going to screw it up, David?
Yeah. So what's going to make a negative in the column? So we talked about in the opening on our key takeaways, there's too many competing priorities. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. Mm-hmm. So that is your number one thing. Next in line is the security team is overstretched and under-resourced. And we already mentioned that one. Third, lack of resources for security awareness behavior, which, I already said my piece on that one. But here's one. We have acquired other businesses and have different cultures to manage. Wow.
And add that to the next one.
The business has grown quickly and security culture can't keep pace.
So if you're growing through acquisitions and mergers or, internal growth, just organic growth, your security culture becomes a big problem, and that drags things down. So if you're not paying attention, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So other things that can be negative, a lack of leadership buy-in and support. People in the business just don't care about security.
That's directly related to number one.
Yeah. I know.
Or the previous one.
Security culture has not been negatively impacted over the last 12 months. So that's good. 15% said it hasn't been impacted. 8% change in security leadership. So guess what? When you got people changing up, it affects things. Changing the security team structure. And then incidents have undermined morale and driven weaker engagement with security.
Yeesh. Yeah. That's tiny.
Yeah, small percentage, but still, think about that.
Yeah. It just if you keep having incidents and it's not getting better, that people are going to participate less.
Yeah.
So if you start at the middle and you're not doing great, you're doing average, you don't have the buy-in, you don't have the other things, it's going to get worse if you do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, which of the following concerns most affect your ability to deliver against this your objectives? So, insufficient staff and the culture of the organization, speed of business change, and budget. Those are all 30% or higher. And then right underneath there, shadow IT. Mm-hmm. Hello. It's way on down there before you get to external threats and criminality. So we don't have the people to do what we know about. We don't have the support because the organization doesn't have the culture of security built in. Things are changing so rapidly that I can't get anything in with all that competing priorities. And then what budget I have is being spent just trying to manage what we do know and not preparing us to go forward.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, everybody thinks they're in IT.
No, right?
I'm like, no, you're on the cybersecurity team, not the IT team. Stop doing that.
And then when we talk about budgeting, They had a thing of described your current information security budget relative to last year. Like, how is it increasing, staying the same, or falling? And then, unfortunately, there is no security budget.
Yeah.
At least claim it's part of IT.
Yeah.
But in 2022, 6% of respondents said there was no security budget.
Oof.
That's dropped to 4%, which is good.
Yeah.
The ones where the security budget has fallen in the last year, 8% in 2022 said they got less money. It had fallen in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And 8% this year said it's fallen in the last year.
I wonder if it's the same 8%.
I wonder. They just keep getting less.
Yeah, I know.
But for the most part, it's increased somewhere. It has increased, but not a lot. So increase less than 25%. That was the number one option in 2022. And same as last year is what's number one this year.
Mm-hmm.
By far. So 34% are getting the same as last year in their budget where they already can't do. Or it's increased by less than 25%. So that's 55% of all of the people in there, with all the others remaining the same, it is the same or a little more. And the threats are not the same or a little more.
Let's talk about the hot topics on the radar for the coming year.
Yeah, we can hit this one excitedly.
So what's coming up? So it'd be for 24. Strengthening business resilience during a cyber incident.
Yep.
Or including cyber. I'm sorry.
Including a cyber incident. Your cyber capability resilience, which we've talked about cyber resilience being the new thing that we should worry about, not just cybersecurity. It's how resilient will we be when we're hit.
Yeah. Now this next one, pay attention. This is the second one on the list. Aligning your security strategy to your business strategy. This one right here drives me nuts because when I go to clients and I say, we need to have a strategy session, oftentimes the response I get is, well, why do we need to do that? Well, what is it we're going to cover? And I'm like, well, I mean, you kind of need to have a conversation about your security strategy, either how you look at it, how I look at it, what we're going to do. And then also I need to understand what your business strategy is. And then we need to peanut butter and chocolate and just kind of stick them together and see what happens.
Yeah. Two great things that taste great together. They're my fave.
I know. So it's like, why are we not having these conversations? And sometimes, sure, there are times when it's the IT people that you may hire or have that aren't doing these things for you. But my experience is it's the other side, that clients don't want to take the time to sit down and have this conversation. Even whenever I'm like, this is important, we need to have this conversation. Okay, we'll try to get that in Q4. I'm like, okay, but not a good thing.
No. And you're absolutely, spot on with that, because when we had our MSP, that was one of our things. You had to have your annual technology meeting. And when we first would come in, they would be like, why are we doing this? Why are you making me do this? And after like the second year of doing it, we'd get the call. When is my meeting? I got things to talk about. I'm making my plans for next year. And so once you realize the value of it, having done it, then you get there. But that is another reason that you need to do things like a regular risk analysis that isn't just running a scan and completing a questionnaire saying yes.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes the pushback I get is, it's kind of like the one we talked about last time where I said the person they don't want to know what's in their systems. I don't want to know a hacker's there. Feedback sometimes I get is, I don't want to know how bad I'm doing or how much other stuff I need to be doing or whatever. And so if I meet with you, you're going to talk about how I'm not doing the things I need to be doing. And so I don't want to meet with you because you're trying to hold my feet to the fire.
Yeah, that's what happens in our coaching program. Wait, you mean you're going to tell me again that I have to do this thing that I haven't done yet? Oh, I'm going to do that before our next phone call. It's just, it's just what it is.
How many times do you have the coaching things where it's like the day before you get an email, can we reschedule for next week? Something came up.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Which is code for I haven't done the homework.
Or we see all of these updates letting us know things have been uploaded to Comply Assistant and tasks have been checked off. Like all of a sudden, a whole bunch of things gets documented. Oh, they're getting ready for the meeting tomorrow. I guess we're on. But to keep going, I mean, so we're looking at 58% are talking about strengthening business resiliency. That is by far one of the most important things. And we're trying so hard to bring that into the conversation as often as we can, along with realizing that cyber risk is a risk to your business strategy if you ignore it.
Oh, yeah.
And just getting them to understand if you're ignoring this, whatever your plans are could be gone in one click.
Mm-hmm.
What's the quickest way to collapse your business with a single click? Don't plan for the single click.
Yeah.
Because it is what it is. So those two, but then improving the security culture. So we're making progress, but it needs improvement. So much so that 45% say that's in their top ones. And then DevSecOps, for those who know DevSecOps, we're not going to go down that path, but basically making sure that your vendors are doing, if they're involved in software and managing your cloud vendors and all of that, you want to make sure they're doing DevSecOps.
Mm-hmm.
A larger organization, start asking those questions. But then enterprise security architecture, including cloud. What a great idea, David. Let's include the cloud.
Yeah, you should.
Security operations. And we're still at 30% or higher. People that want, again, competing priorities.
Yeah.
Security operations, that's actually being able to monitor and respond to them. Is that a good way to explain it, David?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's the thing, is can I actually recognize the security problems, make sure they're in place, make sure they're functioning, and respond when they have a problem. And then here is, kind of goes along with you talking about outsourcing. Resourcing strategy, security operating model, that's in there. 32%. Further down at 16% is outsourcing security capabilities. So those two, I think, kind of go together.
Yeah.
Understanding current and future threat landscape. Okay, I got to stay on top of that. That's 32%. Security testing. Do minimum pen testing. You can sign up for that at CISO. Hello. Give them, if you're in healthcare, there's things you can do. Data governance and data science. That's a lot of what Cardin does. Is helping you manage your data and its privacy and security. But what's the big thing everybody's talking about? AI.
Yeah, AI.
But it ain't at the top of the list.
No, used for or against security. You can best believe it's going to be used against security. So you better find ways to use it for it.
Yeah. And, we had what they rated themselves. Rate the maturity of your process to measure, manage, and assure supply chain risk. So you're managing supply chain risk. So it's a scale of 1 to 5. The 5-star rating. We're all used to it.
Yeah.
This one's sad.
Yeah, not even the 3-star. Like
No.
2 and 7, 2.75 or something.
Right. So you have initial, repeatable, defined, managed, optimize. So you really want to be at defined, which is what most are, 41%. The problem is the only ones that are above that is 24%. You've got 17 and 16 at that low end, which don't count. That's dragging the number down.
Yeah. I want to go back and say something about AI because it's important.
Okay.
I did notice with the last update of ChatGPT, one of the things that it specifically says that you can do now is you can upload a screenshot of an error message and it will help you troubleshoot your problem. That terrifies me from a security standpoint because shadow IT will be all over that. So in your organization, you need to really think about that because it's going to become a problem. It's very interesting and cool that it can do it. And I think AI is going to end up at some point taking over a lot of the support things because I think the operating system will communicate with AI and it'll be like a bunch of auto healing and auto fixing stuff. But when a user says, here's this error message I'm getting, like I'm being blocked from something, let me send this up to AI and it'll tell me how I can quote unquote fix it, which might be circumventing security, you know?
I just want to get around it. Tell me how to get around it.
Right. Or, I mean, even if it's a legitimate fix, what you're not necessarily doing is looking at the big picture, you know, looking at it from the security standpoint, because sometimes it's as I like to say, it's a feature. It's not an error. It's a feature.
It's a feature.
Yeah. But just think about that and make sure you include that in your assessments and such and your policies for sure.
Yes. It's something that everybody should talk about and talk about how to use it safely. So rate the maturity organization's overall risk management program a good solid 3. You know, I'm really like, if you can get to a 3 where it's defined and moving towards managed, that's where you really want to be. That's your sweet spot right there. But the fact that there's still almost 30% in the, you know, between initial and repeatable, that's huge. And then the security posture, after we've talked about how much it's improved, we're still at 3.1%.
Yeah.
So it is in a lot of ways indicative of the big picture when all these people say, we haven't done anything, we're so far behind, and we tell them, you're really no different than anyone else. Unless you've been working, focused and working on it, that's where you are. You've got to start somewhere. So when they talk about what changes have you made in your operating model in response to changes in the way your organization adopts and governs technology, I loved the top 2 features, or top 2 answers on this. Moving security risk accountability to the business owner of technology resources. So that, the clinicians want this new device. Well, guess what? You need to be accountable for making sure you're keeping up with the fact that it needs to be secure and paying attention to it. Not just IT. And centralizing security risk decision-making to a common security steering committee. Implementing new security teams and functions, which kind of goes hand in hand with the other 2. And however you phrase it, it gets back to the same thing we talk about. You need a team that is worrying about this stuff. Everybody's on the cybersecurity team, and everybody has a role. Figure out which one is yours.
So here's the one about the cyber insurance. Yeah, I like this.
Which we've had a lot of discussion about.
We did. So because this is one of the things we hear sometimes, which is, I'll just let cyber insurance cover it. Or I know that I've got decent security, but, the insurance is going to be the bigger piece of it. And in some cases, people are like, I'm only doing security so I can buy the insurance. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
So to what extent do you think that cyber insurance is exacerbating the issue of ransomware? Now, for those who may not know, that means it makes it worse.
Yeah. And what we're saying is the fact that cyber insurance means you can pay the ransom and the criminals know that you have the insurance to pay the ransom. Is that why we're having more ransomware attacks?
Because we've talked before about how people will say, for example, to the ransomware gang, I can't afford that. And they're like, no, you can't afford that because we looked at your policy.
Yeah, remember Gary told us about that, where they held up the picture. You know, here's the policy. We printed it out. We got all the details.
I know.
So, so to some extent, to a great extent, to a lesser extent, to a much lesser extent. So at some level, that is by far the most people. The ones that are unsure, 31%.
Yep.
We know it's doing it to some extent. I would have probably said to some extent. That's 42%. But the fact that only a third said it's that we're not sure. We're not sure. And when we did the numbers, what'd you say? It had to have been 2% that said no, we were missing 2% or something.
Yeah, 2%, basically weren't answering.
Yeah.
So that leaves 69%?
Yep.
That said, yeah, it's doing something.
See, now we know we're at a good spot to stop because you just did math at this point and worked.
I know. That is amazing.
I just confirmed it, and I don't know that I did the math, but I'm going to trust you, David. I think it's good.
It's good enough.
It's good enough.
All right, folks. That's our show for today. You've got your marching orders. Go get some maturity into your security. So some good questions to ask and some good things to take into account, even, honestly, regardless of what size your organization is. But certainly if you are in leadership, come on, folks, please help a brother out.
Let's get on board. Come on. We'll splain. We promise. We'll splain.
All right. So that's our show for today. Remember to rate us and to share us out because we love it. Share us with everybody.
Yeah.
Remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.